Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, the Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about them, visit www.indianasfinest.com. I want to thank Eddie Garrison for producing the show for us and getting us on the radio. We certainly appreciate that. If you're listening to us on the radio, thank you for tuning in. But you can also catch us on the Indiana State Police YouTube channel. We post these shows on there once a week, and that's thanks to our good friend Tom Trial, who does so much work to get us on there. We certainly appreciate him making time for us. Today in studio with me is Captain Ron Galvez, Chief PIO for the State Police. Captain.
John, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
And we're going to talk about a topic today that's pretty near and dear to both of our hearts, and both of us have been a part of this program since it started all the way back in 2013, and that is Indiana State Police Unarmed Response to Active Shooter Events. And kind of just give an overview of what the program is and kind of how we've evolved over the last 10 years.
10 years ago when active shooters were, and that's the term that's out there, there was a push from then Governor Mitch Daniels to enact a program to take out to the schools on how they can potentially safely navigate an incident within their buildings. So after he left office, Governor Pence asked the state police to pick that up and carry it forth. So again, in 2013, the Indiana State Police Public Information Officers were tasked with the presentation that was put together, and we ran with it, and we took it to every corner of the state, far and wide. Every school corporation, big or small, public or private, that we could get into, and it became very well received. And so what it does, it provides options. It's not true training per se. It's an option presentation. And the option presentation at the time was run, hide, fight. We've evolved it. It's still, depending on the language you want to use, escape, lockdown, and fight. And so we have evolved that not only from this classroom now, but we've gone into businesses, places of worship, and anywhere where there could be a gathering of individuals that feel that they could utilize this information.
I think that's what's unique about our program is originally it was designed for schools, and we built it with schools in mind. But as time went on and people started asking, well, can you come to my church? Can you come to my business? Can you come to my corporation? Can you come to whatever group it may be? And we thought, well, yeah, this information isn't only valuable for schools, It's valuable for everybody. And so now, free of charge, it doesn't cost anything. You can go to the Indiana State Police website and sign up for anywhere in the state of Indiana.
Right.
And we'll come in and we'll spend about 45 minutes to an hour talking with you about options, not just what to do when it happens, but what are some things we can do to stay vigilant and prevent it from happening.
Sure. And unfortunately, it's not a cookie cutter program. It's not if A, then B, then B, then C. Again, it's dynamic. It's ever evolving, just like these incidents that we see, unfortunately, all over our country. And so, again, the response options are simply that. We don't proclaim to be experts in this field. We do have some disclaimers out there, but again, the information that we provide has been vetted, and it's as accurate as we can possibly to get it. We have recently, with the help of Sergeant Jason Williamson in our training division, refreshed the program. Again, the information is still relevant. It's still the same as it has been before, but we just have a couple little nuances in there, some different videos and what have you that help highlight those response options.
And we talk about the evolution of the program, and it's not just because we come up with new ideas. Every time one of these happens somewhere in the country, we study it and we learn, and we learn things that were effective, things that weren't effective. We learn things about the mental stability of the person who did it, and we learn and we take that information and we pack it into our program.
Right.
And that's the best that we can do to provide people current information, survival options, but even prevention options, right? We learn maybe simple things that people can do to keep this from happening.
Right, and one of the things that I like to harp on when we do it is situational awareness. Paying attention to what's going on around you in your environment, whether you're in your own home or you're in a shopping center that you've never been at or everywhere else in between. So, just taking some very simple steps could go a long way, having a plan. That's the other part of this is have a plan, go left, go right, but whatever that plan is, think about it. If you have an opportunity to practice it, awesome. But we know that there's a lot of places, these big factories as an example, can't shut down for an hour and run through their safety plan, but they can tabletop it. And so again, there are options out there.
Yeah, and one of the big things you mentioned, situational awareness, is simply being aware of your surroundings everywhere you go, and that's not paranoia. That's not looking over your shoulder, being paranoid that something's happening. That's just observing things, observing body language, observing exits, knowing where exits are, where you are, because the way you came in may not be the best way out. But oftentimes when you talk about situational awareness, you like to break down Cooper's color code, and I think that's a really unique way when you break that down for people to think, you know what, I can think of certain situations I've been in where I've been at all these different levels.
Right. Yeah, it's a 5 color code system, very simple. White, yellow, orange, red, and black. So very simply, white is code white as being unaware of what's going on around you. You're oblivious.
You're sitting in the restaurant on your phone, have no idea what's happening around you.
Absolutely.
Who's going.
Or you're driving down the road, as we like to call it, tunnel vision. No idea what's going on around you. We've all been there. The next one, code yellow, is that general relaxed awareness, kind of having your head on a swivel, paying attention, looking around. Code orange is the next one. There's something in your environment that requires a little extra looking into. I always use the example, the bump in the middle of the night. What was that? And when you go see it, if it requires immediate action, that could be code red. Holy smokes, I have to do something right now. And the last one is code black. And this is, John, where we don't want anybody to be. That is a complete physical and psychological shutdown, because whatever that is in our environment is so egregious that we shut down. Somebody shuts down. So when we talk to our audience, we ask, how do you stay out of that? And again, having the plan, understanding your plan, and really even more importantly, practicing your plan if you can, will help you hopefully stay out of that code black.
Yeah, and when we talk about practicing your plan, we don't mean going through a full-scale drill. It may be in your workplace, find different exits, find out where all the stairwells are and where they take you, because some people work in large buildings and they don't have access to all the floors. So something I tell people to practice is, think about, maybe you're on the 9th floor, you get into the stairwell, you're trying to escape going down, you get down to the 4th floor, and you realize the violence is in the same stairwell you are, and you don't have access to the 4th floor because it's a different business. What are you going to do?
Right.
That's things, because you don't want to have to make that decision under stress. You want to already have a plan.
Right. Absolutely. And if you're new to a building, you're new to a business, when I came downtown from Fort Wayne, the 3rd floor where our headquarters is at, it's confusing if you've never been down there. And it took me a minute to find my way around and get around, but find not only where my primary exit was going to be, secondary, tertiary, and what have you, but it wasn't Ron just walking around. Sometimes I would ask somebody, is there another exit? Where's the restroom? I mean, simple things, but asking somebody who knows, and just trying to get things figured out. So
because when you're under that stress of in a violent encounter like this, you're gonna have a difficult time making new decisions and things you haven't experienced before.
Right. And it doesn't even have to be a violent encounter. It could be such the fire alarm goes off.
Right.
And you're looking for that nearest, safest exit.
Yeah.
But again, having a plan A requires a plan B, because you always assume, okay, plan A is not always going to go. I think Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. Well, plan A could get punched in the mouth. What are your next 2 options?
Yeah, and that's right. Think about the options. Speaking of the options, let's break down the 3 things that we kind of talk about. And historically, it's been called run, hide, fight. The principles are the same. The terminology changes sometimes. Escape, lockdown, fight. If you find yourself in any violent encounter, it doesn't even have to be an active shooter, right? But we think about unthinkable violence. Something's happening around you. You have options, but we don't want the first time you think about those options to be when it's happening. That's part of having a plan. So the first option, to escape. Let's break that down a little bit.
So escape, the first thing, and this could very well be your best option, is just to get away from that situation. But how do you do it? Number one, you have to, hopefully you have a plan. Hopefully you understand where your primary and secondary exits are. But you need to do it smartly. You need to think about it. You can't just run wildly with your hair on fire. Some people are going to do that. That's going to happen. But we also need to think about, okay, are we running towards the violence or away from the violence? We need to know where that perpetrator is at, if at all possible. And if we do, how do we get away from that? Are we going to run blindly around corners? And the answer is no. There's got to be a little, and I'm going to use the word tactical, but that may be, maybe not the right word to use.
Sure.
But we just want to be smart looking around corners, just doing a quick peek down the hall. Okay, it looks good. I don't hear anything. Let's continue to move. And the thing about this too, this whole thing is non-linear. So it could go from run, hide, fight. It could go from run to fight. It could just go to 0 to fight. But again, going back to escape, once we escape, we have to ideally have a rally point, especially if we're with a group of people in a workplace or wherever. Have that pre-planned. If you're going somewhere with your family and you all split up and you have to escape, where are we going to meet up if something goes wrong? So
yeah, you may not have your phone. You leave your belongings behind. You commit. Once you make that decision to escape, you commit.
Yep.
But understand that rally point is almost secondary to your safety, right? You get somewhere safe, and then we'll figure out the rally point.
Right.
But having a pre-plan of where that rally point is going to be the key. So you can be thinking about how
right.
You're
And once you're out, you're out. You don't go back in for any reason.
The next option to lock down is just what it sounds like. You find yourself in a situation where something's happening, and the information you have leads you to believe that the safest option for you is to stay where you are and make sure nothing comes in. So you're going to shut and lock that door. First thing you do, if you can lock it, lock it. If you can't, that's okay. Anything inside the room that you're in that moves is going to be thrown in front of that door.
That's
every chair, every table, every desk, whether it's light, heavy, it doesn't matter. You're making a stack of stuff to prevent that violence from coming in. And then you're looking for secondary options.
Right.
You're looking for that option to escape. You're preparing for that option to fight if you need to.
That's
right. And so always thinking about that next option, staying on your feet, staying mobile, trying to avoid crawling under furniture or into an area where we'll immobilize you or make you not be able to move.
Right. And people may ask, well, why barricade? Why do all this? Because really very simple. These perpetrators are like water. They're looking for the path of least resistance. They don't want to have to work to get into a room. They're going down looking for the unlocked door with a clear sight to the end of that room. So the more that you can put in their way, the better. But also, this whole plan, this whole option response when we first started was based on mitigating what's happening. So if that person is trying to barrel their way in through chairs and desks, and what's the one thing they're probably not doing? They're probably not shooting or demonstrating that violent act. And that's buying time for law enforcement and emergency responders to get there to help
and so
neutralize that.
So escape, lockdown, and the other option is to fight. You find yourself in a situation where you're face-to-face with violence. You're in a situation where you can't escape, you can't lock down. You have the option to fight, and you have the right and the ability to fight for your life. And just think about that. There's not a lot we can go into on that, but just think about what that looks like, what that fight for survival is, and you're still looking for those other options. Maybe that fight lasts just a few seconds, and then the opportunity to escape presents itself.
Right.
So just be thinking about what that looks like. Escape, lockdown, and fight in any violent encounter.
Right. And, the thing about the fight part, we're not asking anybody to give up their life. We know that people will risk their own well-being to help others. But at this,
we're not asking people to go hunting. We're not saying go leave your safe position to go stop what's happening.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But if you have to fight, like you said, you're fighting for your life potentially. Don't fight fair.
Yeah.
And do all you can. And if opportunity presents itself to leave, escape, then escape.
Yep. And again, if you're interested in this program, to have a state trooper come to your group, your church, your business, your school, and talk about this with your employees. Again, it's free of charge. You just go to the Indiana State Police website. Under resources, it talks about active shooter preparedness, and you can go in there and you can sign up for a presentation. It just takes a couple of emails.
It does, yeah.
We're very flexible on times and dates, and we do our very best to make it happen because we feel that this information could save somebody's life.
Yes, absolutely. No question.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. And again, we talked about this unthinkable topic, and we are right here at the start of school years for schools across the state. But we also want you to be thinking about other things school safety related, school buses, school zones, stop arms, pedestrians, all those things that come with those schools. It's that time of year to start looking out for that and being prepared.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you again for tuning in. We certainly appreciate our sponsor, Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, for helping us put this show on each and every week and for helping provide content for the show. And again, if you're looking for a program for the Indiana State Police Unarmed Response to Active Shooter events, you can find that information on our website anywhere in the state of Indiana. We even have the ability sometimes to do it virtual if necessary. But please reach out. We're creative and we're happy to share this information. Thank you again for everybody for tuning in, and we will talk to you next time. Buckle your seatbelt, drive safely, and have a great week.